Hello and welcome to the Subvariations of Variation 29. The first subvariation, you're supposed to do it in two versions. The first one I just played, that's at the frog and mezzo forte, and you're supposed to lift the bow after each slur. That's not very difficult because at the frog we have a lot of bow control, so it's quite easy to bring the bow up and back down again. When you do it in tempo, don't lift the bow quite as high as I just demonstrated. Now for the version in piano, in the middle, don't lift the bow very high at all and don't use very much bow. It's very important when you're playing piano to not use much bow when you're doing this type of bowing, because if you use too much bow, then you won't be in the middle anymore, it won't be piano, and it gets very difficult to control. You can't control it. And also make sure you don't lift your bow very high because it'll become impossible to bring back down without it bouncing. It bounces immediately. So your movements have to be very, very small. You're doing the same thing as you did before when you were at the frog, but it's very small. Very, very small. Hardly lift the bow at all. Now in the next subvariation we have a slur of 2 and then we have 2 spiccato notes on the up bow. The first important thing you need to know is to not lift your bow after the slur, but lift it after the first spiccato note. That's very important because you won't get it precise otherwise. This one also one should do at the frog and mezzo forte, like I just demonstrated, and then in the middle in piano again. Same as with the other subvariation, it's the same movement but very, very small again. Use very little bow and don't lift the bow too high for the spiccato notes because otherwise you won't get it precise. The third subvariation, we have the 2 spiccato notes on the down bow and we have the slur on the up bow with an accent. That accent is absolutely necessary because otherwise the bow will bounce. This one is a bit more tricky. We have the 2 spiccato notes on the down bow and then we really need to give an impulse with a high bow speed for the up bow to stop it from bouncing. We really have to give an impulse, and we give the impulse by using our hand and fingers like this. We give an accent with speed of bow largely to stop the bow from bouncing, also because the accent is written, but I actually think it's the other way around. He writes the accent because there's no way of doing the bowing without the accent. So that takes a bit of time. Practice it slowly. And then speed it up very gradually until you get it up to speed. That one took me a bit of time to master, so have patience with that one. Subvariation 4 is very similar to subvariation 2, excepting that it's a lot faster from the bow point of view. You again have 2 notes slurred and then 2 spiccato on the up bow, but because it's a lot faster, again your movements are smaller and you don't bounce as high. So very important there is to not use too much bow for the slur. Don't lift your bow after the slur, but lift it after the first spiccato note. Very important because you won't get it exact otherwise. And to get it up to speed, speed it up gradually. Start off fairly slowly. You can already do that if you could do Subvariation too, because it's the same bowing, it's just faster. And then speed it up gradually. And don't bounce too high for the spiccato because you won't be able to control it in tempo otherwise. The last Subvariation is sautillet. And the biggest difficulty I had in this was actually knowing exactly where I am because of all the repeated notes. So what helped me a lot when I practiced it was to give an accent on every second down bow and practice it slowly in spiccato. Those accents help your brain to know where you are and then gradually lose them. That was just a little bit of an accent, and then do it without accents. That helps, and then speed it up to sautillet. Another practicing version is to do it at the place of sautillet, upper middle, and at the same speed, but do it on the string, a small détaché note. Because that's very, very similar to sautillet. You're using very little bow, you're in the same speed. You can also practice that with accents. That helps a lot because it's difficult to know exactly where you are with all the changes of strings and the repeated notes. So practice it in very small détaché notes, same place of bow as you do the sautillet, and then all you need to do is allow your bow to bounce for the sautillet. So those are practicing methods which help me with that Subvariation. Hope you have fun with them.